Just for those of you that do not know, Brazil's Supreme Court is actually trying to ban X in the country. Why is that? Well, because there is a little bit of governmental woo-woo dodginess happening over there, and like those little peasants, those little peons, I wish they would just shut their mouths. I nearly swore in the first minute of the video. Who I wish they would just shut their mouths, keep pointing out all of the dodgy stuff that the government is doing, and the government doesn't like that. And one of the very few free platforms that they're able to do that on is X. So the Brazilian government is trying to ban X. Top Brazil court upholds ban of Musk's X. Brazil's Supreme Court has upheld a ban on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. The judges voted unanimously, how about that, in favour of the measure, meaning the ban will stay in place. X has been suspended in Brazil since the early hours of Saturday after it failed to appoint a new legal representative in the country before a court-imposed deadline. But they did it really, really fast and short notice on purpose so that X wouldn't really have enough time to properly respond. It is the latest development in a feud between Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes and X's owner, Elon Musk, which began in April, when the judge ordered the suspension of dozens of accounts for allegedly spreading disinformation. Now, that's the thing is, we need to stop the spread of disinformation, and then turns out a lot of that information is true. And it's weird how the government keeps doing that. It's strange, isn't it? Justice Morales had called for the 5-member panel to rule on the suspension, which has caused division in Brazil. One of the justices, Flavio Dino, argued that freedom of expression is closely linked to a duty of responsibility. I keep hearing that term. Keep hearing that. Okay, but if it's like, yeah, freedom of speech is met with responsibility, yes, and I believe through a social code that should be enforced. However, just because the speech does not meet any certain socially imposed responsibilities, that does not mean that that speech should therefore be banned. You could absolutely criticize the person, you can absolutely speak out and, disprove what they're saying, that's all free speech as well. But to say, yeah, you've got free speech, but you're not using it responsibly. So we're just going to take that little human right off you. No, you can't do that. Shut up, phone. The first can't exist without the second, and vice versa, he added. Completely incorrect. You are stupid. Reacting to the decision to ban X, Mr. Musk had earlier said free speech is the bedrock of democracy, and an unelected pseudo judge in Brazil is destroying it for political purposes. Now, a lot of people say that, yeah, the government's powerful, but we've got checks and balances, such as the Supreme Court. Oh, really? Who hires the Supreme Court again? Who pays their wages? Government. Like, all courts are an arm of the government. The government is essentially has a monopoly on all decision making, and which means that it will always rule in its own favor in any conflict, even those conflicts involving itself. Basically, any conflict that happens that goes in front of the Supreme Court, the government's going to look at it and say, what decision benefits me the most? That's the decision you're getting, because, it's good to be the king. But anyway, in his ruling, Justice Morris gave companies including Apple and Google a 5-day deadline to remove X from its app stores and block its use on iOS and Android devices. He added that individuals or businesses that are found to still be accessing X by using virtual private networks could be fined $8,910 or £6,780 per day. They missed that part out. Per day. X closed its office in Brazil last month, saying its representatives had been threatened with arrest if she did not comply with orders it described as censorship, which it said was illegal under Brazilian law. Again, it's good to be the king. The Brazilian government can ignore its own laws that it itself imposed. A lot of people are getting a lesson in how government actually works. Justice Morris had ordered the X accounts accused of spreading disinformation, many of which belong to supporters of the former right-wing president Jair Bolsonaro, must be blocked while they are under investigation. Shut them up. Shut them up. Stop pointing out all the dodgy stuff we're doing. Shut them up right now. We're going to fine you 10 million billion jillies a day for accessing this information. Again, that's a government on its death rolls, by the way. See, whenever a government starts to go like right over the top on censorship, that's because it's weak. That's because it's weak and it knows that people talking too much can result in very, very bad and drastic things happening to it. That's why it's what's happening over here under Keir Starmer as well. Not quite as bad, but oh, don't you worry, we will get there. Well, I mean, it is quite bad. You're getting people that are getting sent away for fat sentences just for watching a riot happen. Yeah. Okay, maybe it is just as bad. Brazil is said to be one of the largest markets for Mr. Musk's social media network. That's not true. Basically, whatever countries have the highest populations, those are the biggest markets for Twitter. With access to X blocked, many Brazilians have been turning to microblogging platform Blue Sky as an alternative. Blue Sky announced on Saturday that it had registered 500,000 new users in the South American country over the 2 previous days alone. Now, the funny thing is does this mean that the guys that are running these certain Twitter accounts that are spreading disinformation, if enough Brazilians log on to things like Facebook and all these other places and just start posting disinformation, does that mean that Brazilians could just meme all social media out of existence all over the country and just get all of them banned? We have a chance to save society. Yeah, see if just everyone posts enough disinformation, we can get all social media banned. That will cure so many ills on society, especially towards the younger generation, because they're I don't know what's going on with them, but they're being warped right now by social media. We need to return to the days where you had to send letters and do a phone call. None of you little zoomers will ever understand the terror of liking a girl, getting her home phone number because mobile phones were not a thing, getting her home phone number and then calling her on her home phone to ask her to go out on a date and praying her father wasn't the one that answered the phone. Because then you get immediate, who's this? What's your last name? Meekin? Tig. Hang up. It did happen to me once. A guy made me a guy made his daughter stop seeing me because I was a Catholic. But anyway, Lula's Blue Sky profile was top of the list, which also included links to his Instagram, WhatsApp, Threads, TikTok, and Facebook accounts. Blue Sky CEO Jay Graber expressed her delight at the influx of new users, posting in Portuguese and English, "Good job, Brazil, you made the right choice." Blah 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 shop. Right now, in regards to this, all this really is just a standard thing that we're all used to seeing. The only time the government really does anything against the internet and internet censorship is when people start posting things that the government is terrified of people finding out. The government wants to be able to do dodgy things and it wants to be able to get away with it. However, when you tell on them, like to the general populace, that makes it a lot harder for them to get away with it. It makes them look really, really bad in the eyes of the public. It makes people start to question this whole government thing just really isn't working out for us, is it? They just keep screwing us over and over and over again, and I'm starting to get really fed up with it. And then that starts to ferment, that starts to spread, and then that spells very, very bad news for the government. So it's in the government's best interest to shut everyone the hell up and stop people from pointing out all of the dodgy shit that it's doing. And that is just case in point here what's happening in Brazil. The Brazilian government is corrupt, it's doing a lot of dodgy things. People are pointing that out, and in an extreme measure to protect its own hegemony, the Brazilian government has banned an entire social media platform. And it's fining people like $6,000 a day for using a VPN to access it. Right, that is a government that is on its death throes. Right, the Brazilian government, I don't see. I mean, here Bolsonaro, I think he did very, very well. I think he did very, very well in trying to fix the country. However, then there was a little bit of woo-woo fuckery with him getting kicked out, and there was a lot of questions about the election, but hey ho, we're all pretty used to that by now.